Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Harper. I'm the Manager of Employer Relations in the Office of Career and Professional Development here at St. Edward's University. Welcome to, I believe, our eighth session of the Just-in-Time Online Job Fair. This is our second day. We're very excited to have PetRelocation back. They actually participated last year, so we're super excited to welcome Tom and Rebecca to talk about some career opportunities that I think are perhaps the most interesting that we've seen over the last 2 days. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tom and Rebecca. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Andrew, again, for reaching out to us to allow us to participate this week with some of our openings, what we're about, and hopefully share some interest among people that possibly want to do business with us. Yeah. So my name is Tom Pelleton. I've been with PetRelocation for over 3 years, specifically in the HR department. So it's been an interesting ride, to say the least. And this is Rebecca.
Yes, I'm the trainer here at PetRelocation. I've been here for almost 6 years and done a number of the roles actually that we're going to be talking about today. So excited to get going, and hopefully you guys have some good questions in the end that we can answer as well.
Yes. So hopefully y'all can see our screen. So the agenda we have briefly for you today, we're just going to talk a little bit about our company, PetRelocation. We're going to talk about what's involved with actually moving pets, our open positions that we're always looking for, and then, as Rebecca said, any questions that anyone in the audience has. We love questions. Mm-hmm. So first, we're going to talk about our purpose and our brand promise. So our team, here's a snapshot of us that we took late last year. We're very much a learning-focused organization. We're constantly challenging ourselves not only within our industry, finding out what's the best solutions, but also innovating on our processes, on making this place a better workplace for us, as well as with our partners throughout the world and obviously our customers. So in our hiring process, it's a pretty in-depth process where we're not just looking at somebody's background as far as their skill set or what's on a resume, but truly, are they connecting with our values, and do they have the right talent to be able to be successful essentially with us and are committed to our purpose? So our core values, these are 5 values that we hold in high regard and really look for in any new potential teammates. Their commitment, integrity, wisdom, teamwork, and innovation. These are something that we identified as a team a few years ago that really stood out amongst us collectively. And these 5 pillars, if you will, really help maintain the level of service that we give not only to our customers, our vendors, but also to each other. So they're very important to us. And our purpose, here's a move that we did last year or 2 years ago. Zimbo going from US to Uganda, pretty amazing site there. But our purpose is connecting individual journeys through one incredible experience. As you can imagine, relocating a pet, like we have Chomper here, it's not as easy as just putting them on a plane and calling it a day. There's so many interconnected parts, from the airlines to the government agencies to the veterinarians to our clients to the mom and pop taxi services to us. So all of these individual journeys are connecting through this one individual move, this one incredible experience. So it's a pretty powerful thing, and that's really helps us stay focused on the bigger picture of why we're doing what we're doing, rather than just, again, putting them on a plane and calling it a day. Rebecca, do you want to speak about our promise?
Sure. So something that we try to keep in mind are these 3 bullet points with our promise. So if you're interested in a position here, then you would have to uphold these things as well, and especially when speaking to clients. So what we mean by one call, all answers is that if someone's calling into our phone or they're inquiring through an email, even if we maybe aren't the best solution for them, we really want to be able to give them all the answers that they're kind of looking for. So we want to be that that friendly face who can really help them make good decisions about what they want to do with their pet. When we talk about one company, multiple solutions, this is us recognizing with the client that you know, it takes we have multiple ways of doing things, and we have multiple ways of getting pets across the United States or across the world, and it's really up to us to figure out those solutions even when we don't exactly know how to move a pet from Fiji to Oman. That might be something that we're exploring with the client for the very first time, but we want to have under this one company be able to find multiple solutions in order to help that client and their pet. And the one purpose, incredible experiences. So this is, as Tom mentioned, really there's all kinds of people that work with us, all kinds of employees, all kinds of clients, and we really are that purpose-driven company and find that what brings us together more than anything are those incredible experiences, which do completely center around the pet and the best for the pet. So we really strive to make every client experience something that is memorable, and it's really meeting their expectations, hopefully beyond meeting their expectations, and we're really providing that incredible experience and that incredible service that sets us apart from a lot of our other competitors in this industry.
So next, Rebecca is going to talk a little bit more in depth about actually what's involved with moving pets.
Yes. Yes, so what is involved with moving pets? Lots of people, first when they hear the name Pet Relocation, they think that we're kind of an adoption agency, maybe we're rehoming pets that don't have a place to go, but that's really kind of completely the opposite. We're actually working with pets who have homes, and typically their owners have to move for whatever reason. Maybe they're moving for work, maybe they're moving to teach English in another country, maybe they just want to live somewhere else for a time. So we have all different walks of life and clients that come to us, and it's really up to us to meet those needs. So what's involved with that is that very first step of that pet relocation consultation, and it is exactly that. Every client that comes to us, it's all inbound leads, so we don't have any cold calling, which is really great because you can imagine how awkward it would be to try to call somebody down the street and ask them, are you moving soon? Would you like to move? Also, by the way, do you have a pet that you want to move? So it doesn't really work that way for us, which we're very lucky about. Everything is inbound leads, and it's up to that pet relocation consultation service on the front end to really figure out what are their needs. Do they want a service like ours? Are they looking for something like just a plane ticket that maybe we don't really do? Do they just, can we meet all of their expectations, and you know, is their budget in line with what we can offer, things like that. So that's the very first kind of consultation side of things. And then once we do figure out that we have a good partnership with our client or a good fit, we really work out that move plan, the logistics of everything, of when are we going to pick up, do all of these things, and create this move plan for them. And that's really when they're engaging our services with a contract. So at that point on, then, and this also is paralleling the roles that Tom and I are going to talk about next toward the end. So keep this in mind when we get to that end of things. So the pet relocation consultant is kind of one role, and then they engage with our services, and then it switches to the second role that we'll talk about, the relocation coordinator. And that role is really doing things like having a vet consultation, really making sure that this pet is prepared to go international. They have all the right documents, they have the right microchip, the right vaccines, and we're working also partnering with that client's vet as a consultative service to make sure that they are also filling out paperwork correctly. So we're really micromanaging and hand-holding that piece of the move that is so very critical to meet export and import requirements between countries. And then we're also the people who will book the flights if they're coming out of the United States, and again, sharing with the client that flight itinerary. Here's exactly what airline, the flight numbers, this is what happens when before they get checked in, when they get checked in. We're you know, really giving them that full, painting that picture for them so they know what to expect when move day is happening. So at that point, when move day is here, we will have an agent, in whatever city or country this client might be coming from, and they will pick up from the location that we arranged very early on in the process. So maybe our partner, our service partner, is picking up at the client's home. Maybe they're picking up at a boarding facility, maybe a vet clinic. We can arrange a number of different meeting points. And then our service partner will then pick up the pet, like Chomper here. We'll have a kennel for them. We'll have appropriately labeled stickers, make sure it's all airline approved, and we'll have original documentation also that goes with the pet and the kennel. And then they'll drive them to the airport for that check-in process. That's next. And our service partner will work with the designated pet safe employee that we've chosen, again, on the very front end of our travel itinerary. And then from there on, the airline now has responsibility over this pet, but we still have a responsibility to make sure that that pet is getting checked in on time, that we are tracking that flight, or making sure there's no delays, or the flight is for some reason getting rerouted because of some unexpected event. Yep, we really want to make sure that we know exactly kind of where that pet is all along the way, and we're providing those proactive updates to the client so they aren't worried. And then as the flight lands and they're clearing the airport, perhaps even they're clearing customs, we're making sure that all of those things are happening as well. We want to know, is our customs broker, have they gotten the paperwork yet? How long is this process? You know, we're really watching all of those details. And then as the pet gets to our service partner in the destination country or destination city, whatever it may be, then we want to make sure as well that they've connected, that the pet is on the ground, that they look good. We've heard from our agent, perhaps we've even gotten a picture, and that everything is looking great, and we're communicating that to our client as well. And then, of course, they get the happy delivery home, and we really want to follow up with the client as well and make sure that they're happy with the way that the pet has arrived, which typically is always it's always very, very good. But we want to make sure that we're closing the loop and that the client is happy with everything that's happened, and that they're safe and sound back at home and looking great. So that's, in general, the gist of our services.
So lots of moving parts, as you can see, but that's exactly why our service exists, is to help make it more of a seamless process for our clients.
That's right. So a lot of what we provide are actually pieces that the client can do themselves. There are some countries in the world that do require a pet shipper like us to be involved in the process, but for the countries where clients can do this on their own, they absolutely can. So really, when we talk to the client about hiring us, we really find that the value of our service is with a lot of these nitty-gritty components, but it's also really related to when things don't go according to plan, which can happen often, as the travel industry always has things going on. Quarantine items might have something going on, government things. But as a whole, really what we're diving into, these components of our service, the standard components are things like really making sure that the pet has the right travel kennel, it's the right size. We're working with the client on measuring the pet, even taking pictures of the pet in the kennel, sending them back to us. And we want to see, yes, this is approved crate, the pet looks good, they're going to be in this for, you know, anywhere from 8 to possibly 24 hours. So it's a very, very critical component that we're working, partnering with the client on. We're also working with government entities. International paperwork has to be endorsed and approved. So again, we want to make sure that before it gets to that government entity, that everything is looking like it should look, and we're catching things in advance if there happen to be mistakes, or maybe numbers are transposed of rabies vaccine dates or microchip number dates. So we're really working with some very fine details that we don't expect the client to have knowledge of, and a lot of times we sometimes don't expect even the veterinarians to even catch, because some of them don't do this very often. So we're here to do that part as well. Of course, the travel plan, giving that full timeline of events to the client is something that we really put a lot of work in on the front side to make sure it's exactly what they are expecting, and that we're following that plan and those dates to a T. And then, of course, the travel day logistics, some of the things I mentioned in the previous slide, those are really all the standard components. Then, as we work with different types of animals, different types of clients, different types of countries, then we also have to be involved with things like quarantine. We have to know how to even book quarantine. We have to know how many days quarantine is going on, what's happening in quarantine, can the pet owners visit quarantine, what are the facilities like. We really have to be those subject matter experts for any of those facilities that might be in 10 different countries. If a pet owner has a specialty dog, like a snub-nosed breed, that this animal and this breed were really knowledgeable, that we understand that this can have a higher risk of travel because it's of a snub-nosed nature. So we want to be kind of a subject matter expert on how that would affect the travel plan. Large breed dogs also. Large dogs, we need to be aware and understand that they might need a custom kennel. We have to be aware and understand of the timeline of getting a custom kennel, what it costs, all these variable things for a large dog breed, and making sure that it is truly the right fit for that animal. Aggressive breed dogs is also something that we don't have to work with typically so often, but in the event that there is an aggressive breed or a breed who maybe just has an anxiety for strangers who are coming to pick them up, we want to be expert in being able to help that client feel good about what we can do to alleviate some of that stress for that dog. Exotic pets, we have to work with those as well, things like snakes, birds, amphibians, fish, reptiles, hedgehogs, guinea pigs. We're actually working with a client now about moving their 2 pet ducks abroad to the United Kingdom. That's kind of a first for us, but we want to be the expert in that, so we're working with the client on exactly what does that look like, and it's kind of a learning process for both of us. And also things like elderly pets. Everything with pet travel in our minds is all about the pet. We want to make sure that every type of pet, young and old, aggressive, docile, medical issues, whatnot, exotic, that we're making the best choices for that particular pet. So we really do expect all of our salespeople, our relocation coordinators, they all need to have the same level of understanding of how the choices they make on a daily basis might affect these different types of pets to keep them safe and healthy for travel. Yes, so a little bit more about the government requirements. This is really a big part of what we deal with. The majority of our moves are actually international moves, and each country that we are moving between has their own set of import requirements, their own set of export requirements, and then on top of it, you also have the airlines who has their set of requirements that they want to see. So we really have to take a very heavy investment in all of these very small details for all of these different types of entities that we have to make happy when we're moving a pet. So as part of our service, we really ensure that the import and the export requirements are met, and the pet owner does not have to worry about what if something's wrong, then now my pet's going to go into quarantine. Again, we do everything we can proactively on the front side to make sure that is not an option, that's not happening. Of course, sometimes things do slip through the cracks and sometimes things do happen, but for the majority of our expertise, we can completely avoid most of that. Working with governments also includes things like applying for import permits, export permits, arranging for those documents to be endorsed, and things like reserving quarantine space.
So that's it in a nutshell as far as our company moving pets and what's involved with it. Obviously, each little subsection of that we could speak at length to, but we just wanted to give you an entire overview. And so now we're going to talk about the positions that we have. We're located here in Austin and have been Austin since 2004. Mm-hmm. And right now we have a pretty small team. There's just over 28 of us, and we're having a few new people join in May. But essentially, we're always looking. So regardless if you go on our website and check out our careers page and see the various postings that happen throughout the year, we always are looking and always are wanting to meet good local talent. So that's why on our careers page we have a general post. So even if you don't see yourself specifically in either the two roles that we'll be discussing today, still we love to be able to connect with you. And even if we don't have a spot on the team today, we might have one next month or later down the road. So that's why we always kind of have that open door and are always looking. But today we're going to specifically talk about the two roles that primarily make up what we do. And Rebecca already talked about them, but just to recap, the sales consultant is really that first point of contact for our customers, where, as she mentioned, they're all inbound leads. They're primarily finding us through our organic media presence and Googling and finding us and reaching out and trying to get an understanding of what's involved to bring their loved one with them. So the sales consultant is really somebody that really listens intently and tries to get an understanding of our customers' needs, how familiar they are with the process, is this the first time that they're moving, and really identify if they're a good match for our services or essentially qualify them. If they're not and they're really just looking for information, our website is a great plethora of free information that we'd like to provide those customers that want to do it themselves. Or if they can't afford our services, we still like to point them in the right direction so that they have the most information so that they can keep their family together. But if they are a good fit for our services, what our sales consultant will do is essentially take away some pretty critical, vital information specific to their move and really do a deep dive and start working on the logistics and the planning for the individual move. And that involves reaching out to airlines, that involves reaching out to our vast vendor network or agents, and really put together a unique package for their move. And the way we do that is through the form of a contract. So once the contract comes in, then the sales consultant basically turns the move over to our international relocation coordinator. And these are really the customer service logistical gurus that really take over the move and handhold our customer throughout the remainder of the process until there's that happy reunion at the end of the day. So even though they work hand in hand with our sales consultants, at the end of the day, they're really the heart of the company and what they do and providing that level of service.
Yes, and another our correlation I'd like to make between the positions is each of the positions are both equally accountable to the customer. They're both client-facing, and they're both a position who has to be a consultative position at the end of the day. So even though a salesperson is essentially talking about the money side of things and getting a contract together, it's so important that they are knowledgeable and consultative and really putting together a plan that meets that client's needs. And then on this side with the International Relocation Coordinator, even though they're not necessarily putting together a plan, as things change in a lot of pet owners' lives, even once they've signed on with us, they might end up changing move dates. They might decide, you know what, I want to switch airlines, or actually we learned that the kennel needs to be a bigger size. So that the relocation coordinator has to also be flexible and adaptable and make changes to the original move plan based on the new realities that they are also learning about. So each role is equally accountable to the customer, and it's so important that they are also equally partnering with each other internally for the best interest of the pet and the client's needs. So, which is, I think, one reason why our teams are so successful, because they do work very, very closely together with the common interest of that client and their pet.
Right, and I think it's important to note too, if you go on our website, you'll be able to see it more clearly. We have some of our International Relocation Coordinator team members here, but we actually have specific destination teams that service a particular area of the world. For example, Katie Hearn there is charged with handling EU groups. We have a domestic team, we have a UK-EU team, we have Australia, New Zealand, we have all other countries. So we found that it's really great to pair up the sales consultants that are working directly in those regions with our international relocation coordinators so that they are familiar with the ever-changing requirements that a particular region might be going through.
Mm-hmm.
About you. So we recognize we're a bit of a unique beast in Austin in that we don't have the luxury of holding up a sign and saying, okay, apply within if you have 5 years of shipping live pet experience. That's just not going to happen. So what we found is there's some common traits that make someone particularly successful working at Pet Relocation, even if you're coming from the hospitality, restaurants, or lawyers, or whatever your background is, you kind of have a reset when you hit Pet Relocation. And frankly, even though we have a great, vast learning program in our 30, 60, 90-day onboarding, it really takes about 6 months to even a year before you really feel comfortable and confident in your given role. So what we're looking for is essentially hardworking, energetic professionals, and somebody that's looking not to just be a sole contributor, but being a part of the team. Each of these destination teams are unique in that they're kind of their own little business units on how they operate. And so obviously we want to be successful and continue to help out more and more families, but it's easier said than the hard work that it takes in order to make that a reality. So being a part of the team and helping with that growth is something that makes someone successful. And beyond the day-to-day, I think one of the things that's unique about working at Pet Relocation is you could be doing your day-to-day tasks of either being that sales or that relocation coordinator, but besides that, there's Pet Relocation as a company that Kevin and Angie, the owners, and very much still a part of the company, leading the charge, if you will. They really respect all of our unique individual backgrounds and don't have a board of advisors that come in and say, you must do it this way. They really respect and empower us to help grow the business as well. So there's opportunities not only with the specific destination units of that growth, but the company growth as well. So that's pretty unique, and it's not for everyone, but those that do take those opportunities, it's pretty unique in terms of creating bullet points on your resume.
Yes, that's right. And in my experience too, in working a little bit with St. Ed's and going to some other in-person career fairs and things like that, I've really noticed that I think a lot of the students and folks like you who come out of St. Ed's, they are already far ahead in my opinion because they tend to have already a mentality of taking ownership and kind of having a sense of independence and like they don't want to be handheld through everything and they want to be proactive and they really want to get in there and kind of push the boundaries and push the lines. So I think that is exactly what we love here as well. We really want people to have their own individual perspectives, their own individual voices, but as Tom mentioned, be able to collaborate and to come together as a team to really bubble up what is that best thing for the company based on this collective experience that we have at hand. So, also, along with he mentioned a little bit about the training process. In the 30, 60, 90 that we do, we are very, very, very heavily invested in teaching how to do these things and teaching people how to go to their resources and lean on their resources to become the subject matter expert. So we really also, that reflects in our interview process because we want you as well to come to the table with how is this a fit for you, equally as much as we want to learn how are you a fit for us. And we really push people to continue to have those open conversations, not only just in the interview process, but carry it throughout their career here, because we are a continuously growing company and we don't have okay, in year 1, you're starting here, in year 2, then you're climbing this ladder in 4 and 5. So it really takes that organic learning from each other to determine what do you want and what do we want, and let's continue that conversation throughout the lifetime of your career here with Pet Relocation. So that's something that I've also really come to appreciate and why I'm still here almost for 6 years, because of that continued growth, because it never stops. It never stops in this industry, and it never stops when you're working in an international environment around the world. You have to keep learning, which is so exciting to me and why I love being the trainer.
So at this point, we said our piece, and like Rebecca mentioned, we love questions. So I think we'll pause here, and if anyone out in the audience wants to connect and ask a question, we'd love to be able to provide some feedback and answers.
Yes.
All right. One of the questions I have here is they like the services provided and are interested in both positions with the sales consultant, but do you have to have a lot of experience in sales?
No, it's not a typical sales. I think sales is a little misleading, and if you look over our postings over the last few years, we're not really big on titles per se. They kind of evolved. I think the heavy word there is consulting. On the slide, I believe we mentioned they're kind of like that concierge at a hotel. And I think someone with deep listening skills, really being able to understand and listen where the pain points of our customers are, rather than making we have this shiny new product or shiny new car that we're trying to get off the lot. It's not like that at all. We're really down-to-earth people that are like-minded with our customers, and that we love pets, and we really want to make sure that they are able to keep their family together. So I think the consultative part is much more important, and even if you don't have years of experience on paper consulting, if you will, there's still life experience and just that innate skill set that some people have more than others. And so with the sales consultant, yeah, long story short, you don't have to have years of selling experience.
Right, and one thing, just to add quickly onto that, that I've heard from the owners, Kevin and Angie, the co-owners, about being a sales representative is really what they're looking for, and what we're looking for is the ability to have an easy, casual conversation with all different types of clients, kind of like if you were talking to a family member, if they were interested in moving their pet, how would you explain it to them, but be able to have a very easy, casual conversation about perhaps some pretty complex details that don't feel like a big, overwhelming process. And that's really kind of that inner approach and that inner personality that it's kind of just an easy conversation, and that's really kind of the heart of the sales and having that consultative nature.
Yeah, and on top of that too, just to piggyback, that consultative nature, but who are our customers? Our customers are just like you and us, as well as C-suite executives or even executive vice presidents of very, very big companies. So everyone is the same at the end of the day. They love their family member, their pet. So we would just want to connect with them on a very friendly, consultative way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question.
I'm just trying to get a sense of the volume. Like today, for instance, how many? I'm trying to make this sound as intelligent as possible, but how many pets are out are in relocation somewhere in the process of being transported somewhere? I guess that kind of a volume, like, of clients you're dealing with at open accounts every day.
I think we have over 200 shipments that are, I mean, not today, but we're working on over 200 active moves. But on a weekly basis, it really depends. It's kind of a hard question to answer, but it depends on what team. Domestic moves, for example, they're typically from start to finish within 30 days versus an Australia move, which could take upwards of 6 months. So,
right. So on a daily level, and we're also very seasonal, where summer we find our volume increases dramatically versus the winter months. So on any given day, we could have anywhere from 3 or 4 different pet moves in the air, but one of those shipments could have 5 cats, one could have 1 dog.
Right.
And then as far as the roles are concerned, when we're looking at the relocation coordinators, on any given day, they could be working with somewhere between really 30 clients, maybe 40 and even 50, just depending on that seasonality. And as far as our sales consultants, they tend to have a much bigger pipeline of people because they're working with people who they want to try to get engaged. So they could have anywhere from maybe, again, like 30 or 40, but typically it's going to be more like 60 or 70 that they're trying to actively engage. But they're really maybe sending out you know, a couple of contracts, or maybe 4 or 5 contracts a week. So it kind of just ebbs and flows depending on where they are in their pipeline and in their funnel. Yeah, it's kind of a tough question.
And it keeps growing,
yeah,
which is great. I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
A lot of customers knocking on our door.
Yes.
I know I've worked with students before who have applied for these positions, and their first reason for doing so is they're like, well, I love animals, but I realize that alone is not the only qualification or only reason you should be applying. Can you speak a little bit more about why that might not be the only reason you should be considering this, or why it may not be the reason this is the right fit?
Yeah, that's a great question too, and something that we face day in, day out. I mean, we're obviously all pet lovers, and we all can connect with that. And on a superficial level, the people that find pet relocation and never knew that a service like this existed, and here it is in Austin and dealing with pets, that's great. At the heart of what we do, besides dealing with pets, we're a logistics company. So having that passion towards the animals and connecting with them is a given. You need to have that. I would say you need to have that in order to connect with the overall vision and purpose of what we're doing. But at the heart of someone who makes successful, it's more of the logistics side and dealing with those finite details and sifting through and being that really project manager towards every individual move and having that high degree of consultative, organizational adaptation. And so out of the interview process that we go through, from the reviewing the cover letter to resume to questionnaire to phone screening to on-site interviews, we're really trying to dissect not only, as I mentioned before, somebody's skill set and their experience, but really what are they looking for in their next opportunity? What do they want to take away from pet relocation? What can they add to the team? So it's a lot more in-depth that we try to go through for the process, because like I mentioned and Rebecca did, it's not like you're going to be starting and hitting the ground running right from day one. There's a high level of investment, of training that we give, so we want to make sure that it's a good fit at the end of the day.
Yes, and to expound a little bit on that as well, because I think absolutely, yes, you have to have an interest in pets, a love of pets, a passion for animals, because that's the reason we exist, and all of the move plans we put together, all of the hard conversations that we have to make judgment calls on are about the best interest of that pet. If you're not inherently connected to why you're making choices for this creature's best interest, then yes, absolutely, this is not a job for you. But we would say, great, you have that passion for pets, but let's take it to the next level, because we are, to paint a picture, I mean, we are an office on the east side of Austin. We're all working in an office environment. Really, your main connection is not going to be with the pet, it's with the pet owner, and it's through phone, through email. You might get lucky if they're in town and they might come in and show you the pet, but other than the amount of dogs that might be in the office that our coworkers are bringing in, there's not a physical interaction with the animals. It's all electronic. You're looking at pictures. So it's really, you have to take that love of the pet to the next level to help the client make the best choices for that animal, because they don't know typically how to do it, and they don't know what kind of choices they're making, and they don't understand if they make the wrong one, how that can impact this pet's health or safety. So that's where we would kind of challenge that person who says, great, you love pets, but do you love them to where you want to help the client and the pet owner understand why that's important in making those choices.
In terms of scheduling, I'm assuming this is a 24-hour operation if pets are being relocated across the world. Are the positions typically within a typical 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 time frame, or are there also flexible scheduling options, knowing that there could be concerns that come up?
Sure.
I'll start that. So as a whole, this position is a typically 8:30 to 5:30 position. While we do have members on different teams who are working in different time zones, we really teach people how to set expectations for their clients. So we really empower our people here locally to tell your client in China when you are available, and those hours are between 8:30 and 5:30, and really telling them from the beginning, hey, here's the best way to get a hold of me, or, you know, it's all about empowering our employees to set those expectations. So that being said, if you have a move day, again, where your client's in China, the pet's departing, then kind of the way that we coach people is to tell them, give them the resources of, you know, we hook them up with our service partners' phone numbers on the origin side or the destination side, and we let kind of our service partners be that local extension of ourselves for those very critical movement points of the move, like move day. And then we kind of let them speak to each other on that local time. However, we do think it's best to always have a place for those emergency situations where, yes, you do need to maybe wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. and you might need to receive a phone call from a panicking client who's just anxiety driven and maybe everything's going fine, but they just need to hear from you. Or maybe there is something going on with an airline or check-in, and you do ultimately need to be responsible for those types of situations. But if you're preparing everything well in advance and you're covering all of the details well in advance and setting the expectations well in advance, those situations are very, very rare. So we don't expect our people here to be working 24/7. That would be crazy for a work-life balance, and we really want a strong work-life balance here.
Yeah, and speaking a little more about that flexibility in those kind of emergency situations where it might be that 3 a.m. phone call, what we've really done over the years is really allow for that flexibility in time so that, yes, office hours are Monday, Friday, 8:30 to 5:30, but if you find yourself with a late night or perhaps even early morning and you need to take some time before you come into the office or leave a little earlier, then as long as you just communicate that with the team, it's 9 times out of 10 given the thumbs up. We really respect and understand what our team members are going through on those kind of situations. So we want to help support them in any way we can, and flexibility and scheduling is just one avenue of how we do that.
Right, and then we have one more question. How much report and documentation is involved?
So as far as working with the logistics of a move and a client, I mean, it's, I would say it's very, very high. I mean, it might be even 75% of your time is really spent, maybe, yeah, 60 to 75% is really spent with documentation, with paperwork, but it's in relation to communicating why that paperwork is important. So you're reviewing a lot of things, and then you're having to work with the airline about the particular details of that flight booking, or you're working with this document and then you're having to send it to the vet so that they can be prepared for the vet visit, or you're working with documentation and you're sending it to our customs agent so they have everything that they need. So yes, you do have to have a very detailed eye for paperwork and documentation, and this is primarily on the relocation coordinator side of things. On the sales side of things, the documentation is much, much less. You might be reviewing a couple of vet documents maybe early on just to help determine move dates or something like that, but really where you have to be diligent on the sales side of things is when it comes to the contract and making sure all of the details in the contract are really tight and accurate.
Well, I think those were all of the questions, and we are about 15 minutes away from our next session. Tom and Rebecca, thank you so much for participating again.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, thank you. Have a great weekend. And if anybody has any questions or needs assistance with their application, please feel free to come to the Career and Professional Development Office in Moody Hall 134, or give us a call at 512-448-8530. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.